I think this takes us to probably the second most popular question when it comes to contracting and freelancing is, what rate do I charge, or how do I come up with my pricing? I know that's something that I've always struggled with. All right.
That is really tough, yeah. And I will admit I'm not very good at this. I'm trying to be, but it's not one of those things I have a perfect answer for. But I will say I used to be very shy about it,
Hmm.
and I used to sort of hum and haw and like try to go, well, let's figure it out and try to put it off as much as possible, or quite frankly, accept whatever it is that they would offer.
Hmm.
And I think you're going to end up doing this for a while anyway, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's about having some people that want to work with you. And so I probably undercharged quite a bit in the early days. And it's not until I'd say the last 2 years that I'm pretty confident giving pretty high rates. My rates are pretty high. But that comes from experience, and it comes from confidence that I can add value. And I think if there's any, but before I get into the specifics of how maybe you should think about pricing, I would say from a philosophy of what you're doing perspective, there's two ways to look at what you do when it comes to working for somebody. You can see yourself as what your price is. In other words, how much is my physical moving around, moving my fingers on a keyboard worth to somebody? Or you can consider yourself by value. So it's either price or value. Price is where you're basically saying pretty much anybody with a similar skill set can do this. Therefore, I'm priced equal to what other people in a similar position can do. If you instead think of yourself as what value can I add to the client, you can start putting it under what are the client trying to do? Why did they come to you for the project? What will this give them? Why are they even doing this project in the first place? Is it going to result in more revenue for them? Is it going to result in more marketing for them? And once you find out what the point of the project is, the question becomes, what value can you bring to that project? So if the project is hypothetically a project worth 200,000, suddenly you're charging 10,000 is actually not that much in the grand scheme if you're going to literally make the entire thing and it's going to result in 200,000 in revenue or something. Obviously, it's not usually that clean and clear, but the point is simply a company is usually making a prototype or a demo or doing some system for something. They're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because they're trying to build more revenue, or they're trying to sell an idea, or they're trying to prototype a project. And if you're willing to accept the fact that they are trying to do something that will result in a lot of money for them, because otherwise, why is it a business? It's much easier to sort of reason about to yourself that you are literally adding value in the form of manifesting an idea that they can't do without you. And that makes it sort of easier to reason about your own prices.
I actually have a quote that I saved from you from I think it was
Oh, no.
like a year ago. I saved the screenshot. Someone was asking on the Discord server, guys, documenting hourly rate is different than programming hourly rate. He was asking because they were trying, I guess like he was doing some work and they were trying to charge him an hourly rate for documenting differently from what his programming rate was. So then Jason says, I have a single hourly rate, work rate. Programming is a job that has a number of parts from debugging, documentation, coding, etc., some with more perceived value than other. But to be honest, it doesn't work like that. People are not paying you for an hourly rate, or people are not paying you an hourly rate for labor. They're paying you a rate for your experience at doing the job in total. And the assumption is that your experience means you will, as a whole, do it better than someone less experienced. In short, if you record them, the average programmer spends something like 65% of their time looking at their screen, not typing. But not typing is not the same as not working. You charge a rate to get a job done, and it is assumed you have the experience to use that time effectively. That being said, depending on how well you know the client or how much you have worked with them, I tend to let a few things like refactoring bleed over the edges of the quoted time. And it goes on, but I think that's the meat and potatoes of it is it's your experience. It's the fact that you're someone who will get the job done. Does that sound fair? Does past Jason sound like?
Yeah, I'm worried when someone says, "Here's something you said last
I know,
year."
right?
It's like, I hope I still agree with it.
I took a screenshot of it for a reason because I was like, "Damn, this is great."
Well, yeah, so I will say probably I'm less focused on hourly rate these days. I'm trying to focus more. I'm trying to avoid letting a client consider you as an hourly rated person. Unfortunately, that still happens. I want to be more considered as you want this project to succeed, and I can help this project succeed, and my value should be commensurate with how much the project will succeed or fail relative to my value added to it. So I try to be less pivoted specifically on hours these days, but fundamentally, yeah, the point is still the same, is that I don't think it's valuable to tell people it's like I am this hourly rate, because at the end of the day, the other thing too, I've gotten job offers from people that are fundamentally different than what I normally do. I've gotten offers where it's like, hey, we want you to build this system, we want you to write this code or document or do this thing or present this concept, or there's all sorts of different things.
Mhm.
And like honestly, it's a personal decision how much I want to do a particular thing. Like I might say, honestly, I'll happily do this for that price, but I won't do that unless you pay 3 times the amount. Because quite frankly, I hate doing it. I can do it, but realistically, I don't want to do that thing. And so I don't like putting a specific, like, literally my existence working on your stuff is worth this much per hour. I think that's unfair both to you and to them, because you'll have different levels of quality and value you bring depending on what they want you doing. And so I've actually said to clients, and this kind of surprises people, I've actually said, they said, "Oh, can you do this project?" And I'll say, "You don't want me doing that. I mean, I will I will, but like, you don't want me to, because you can get cheaper people to do pretty much the same thing. But what I can do is I can add value that you may not know you need. So let me explain your project as I understand it, and let's talk about things that I think you might be missing or that you might not have people doing. And then I'll go in and I'll say, here's some architecture concerns you have. Here's some stuff you may need to do. Here's various different things. And then it's a case of, if you need that job, hire me for that at my rates. If you want someone to type and do code stuff, I can do that too. But you're paying premium for that privilege. And so what I end up finding happens for me is I'll demonstrate that I'm adding value beyond typing on a screen. I'll get hired for that, not for the typing portion. To be hired as like what value can you bring? And then because they like working with me, they'll tend to say, you know what, just do the typing bit too. And I end up getting paid more than I would charge for that kind of thing, if you know what I mean, because I'm a more expensive version of the same contractor that someone can get for cheaper, because they want to work with me, and it's easier that they have one person doing both things rather than hiring someone else. But I'm very blunt about that, is my point. I'm very blunt to say there are other people who are cheaper for this kind of thing, if that's what you're trying to do. Because I think it's, you don't want to lowest common denominator yourself. Like, you want to figure out what makes you happy. What is the, I think this is the big misunderstanding. If you take a rate that you don't like, you'll begrudge the client, you'll hate working, you'll be annoyed and feel like your time is wasted, and everybody's unhappy. Like, and that's like, you don't want that. Like, you're going to produce bad work for them. You're going to hate your day job. And so the truth is, as much as you may hate the idea, you sometimes just might have to turn down work if you can't make the numbers match. But that being said, I've been offered jobs where it's like, this is far lower than my normal rate, but you know what? It seemed like a fun project. So I'm actually okay to subsidize the project by the fact that I won't dislike it. And I'll say to the client, I'll say, you know what, you normally charge more, and I'll kind of work something out. And it comes down to like building a working relationship. And I'm more than happy to meet people halfway, but I won't do it if I feel like I'm undercutting myself to the point that I'll be unhappy.
Right. Yeah.
That's basically the point, right?
You're already going to be unhappy half the time when you can't find a job. So you might as well be happy when you're working a job.
People who passed on us because we were too cheap, went to somebody else. The other people made a mess of it, and they came back to us afterwards, and then we finished it, and they still work with us now, because because the expectation is it's that sort of feeling of value. And so I guess the cycle it back, you want to add value relative to the project. So if it's a big company and they're going to get a lot out of it, to them, less than 2% of the cost of the whole project is nothing for like making the entire thing. But if it's a small company or somebody who just wants you to do some small bits of work, it comes down to, again, with the whole adding value thing, is that if you're too expensive, you're not adding value anymore. You're now like a chain around their neck. So it works both ways. And so once you kind of know what the person is doing, you can kind of say, look, I'm more than happy to say I am more expensive, but I'll come down to match you, than I am saying I'll work to match whatever you're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The cliche is true. And I said this briefly in the last one, but it's the same as true here. And think about it for yourself, not just as a client. I know myself, I would prefer somebody tell me something is going to take a month, but it guaranteed it'll be delivered by a month, maybe even under, than someone tell me a week and it actually ends up taking 2.5 weeks.
Right.
Because I'll make expectations and plans, and I'll have stuff to go to. And oftentimes with most clients, they come to you because they're going to a trade show, or they're delivering to a client. And there's this like horrible chain of you promise it to them, so they promise it to their boss, who tells somebody, who books something, who hires somebody for this project because they know the deadline.
Terrible chain is like a great way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because somebody somewhere will freak out when stuff goes wrong. And so some people are like, oh, but you're lying if you're saying that it takes twice as long or something. It's like, I would rather say it takes a month. And then someone says, it shouldn't take a month. I've worked with people before and they've done it in a week. And I said, well, how about this? I can promise you it'll take a month or less. That's a better place to be in than to promise something that has you scrambling. Yeah. And I've seen this too, is that if you underpromise for time, or you try to be accurate with time, even if you do get it done right, you'll find yourself eating a lot of those costs. So for example, we've worked on projects before where the deadline comes up and we didn't bake it into the contract, or there wasn't any thing for overtime or anything. So we're kind of going, I guess we're just eating that. So we ended up having to spend like a week of late nights and working hard. And this comes back to that thing of now you begrudge the client. And I've had these situations where you end up a project hating the project and the clients by proxy, not because they did anything wrong, but because the deadline changed and you knew you couldn't really bring it up because it wasn't really part of the project. And so you just have to silently stew and get angry that stuff isn't working properly. And so I don't want to like pass that on one way or another. I would rather have more buffer than not. So I can't tell you the exact right amount, but basically guess how long it would take you to do something, or how much something should cost you in terms of whatever price you're willing to charge. And if there are unknowns, assume the unknown is the worst case scenario, and then add 20% to it. That's just the general rule. And like I said, like you don't have to. If you go under, then just don't charge for the last few days. Like you can always undo whatever that is, right? But you can't do the reverse. You can't just sort of say, I will do it for this price at this exact time zone, and if it goes over, like unless it's agreed for in advance, and nobody wants to be told, oh, it took an extra week, so you owe me an extra 3,000 or 2,000. It's like, no, I'd rather them say it was done a week earlier. Here's 500 back. Like it's just a better position to be in,
Yeah. Thank you to all of my patrons, and a special shout out to Jennifer Irwin, Christian, Urizer, Alwyn Kuravilla, Umit Sarin, Anton, Mighty Possum, Amar Duranovic, Dustin, Nav from Academy of Games, Usuf Ali Castle, Iron Alex, Trond, Dark Rush Photography, Glasswell Entertainment, and R-Star. Thank you.